My mother gave birth to a beautiful baby.
Well, I was nervous and that, but confidence is
Relaxed.
very bordering on arrogant.
You're training, so you're not really paying attention, and somebody said, that's Christophe Dugarry.
Falkirk doing their part with a more comfortable win against another of your former teams this weekend in Dunfermline, but everybody's your former team. Welcome to the warm-up, brought to you by William Hill, a proper supporter of the SPFL. It's good to be back alongside Steven Naismith, former player, manager, now professional baker, who's back in the hot seat, and two top guests as always. We've got Celtic and Hibs favourite Alan Stubbs and Andy Barrowman. I looked at your Wikipedia, you're described as journeyman striker, straight there in the top line. Most recently, of course, CEO of Raith Rovers as well. You both well?
Very good. I'm very good, yeah.
Great, thanks, yep.
Good to have you both. No baked goods for you this week, just laying off.
Nah, laying
after
off.
the waistline.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of work going in. I'm in a good place, so
Good.
constantly improving.
He's still talking like he's a footballer. We're in a good place. We're just one loaf at a time.
To be fair, what I have noticed is the first few weeks doing this side of the table, I was nervous and that, but confidence is
Relaxed.
very bordering on arrogant.
Carried away.
Aye.
Getting complacent. Good. Do you know what I like to try and figure out? So how you three maybe sort of know each other or overlapped? What's the
I think it's amazing. Like, so
Yeah.
Stubbsy, obviously, when I moved to Everton, Stubbsy was the 23s coach,
right?
And just before I left Kilmarnock, Andy was signed for Kilmarnock, so there's a connection. There's a connection there.
Do you remember of this guy at Kilmarnock?
He was obviously very good. He was very moany as well, but I don't know if that changed throughout the years, but no, he was obviously the young kid on the block, and he was doing really well. So it was good to watch.
Enjoyable times then when you're young and fearless.
So you didn't overlap obviously as players at Everton. It was just you were on the staff.
No. Naisy, when he was at Everton, obviously with the first team, it's always, I think, easy for me to talk because I'm on the outside looking in. But Naisy was I'd say a very well respected member of the first team squad. I think a lot of players looked up to him, and I think in an Everton jersey, it was, in terms of his value to the team, probably a lot of the time went unnoticed, because I think Naisy is very much an unselfish player. You know, he thinks about the team rather than more than less than self at times, and he did really well. Did really well. He was great with the younger lads at Everton, especially in the 23s at the time. Has always got time to speak to people, which a lot of the young lads really respected. And it's weird. It's weird that I don't see him for a while, and then the next minute I see him twice in the same week.
I've done a press event earlier in the week, so
Is he the poster boy for young players coming through at Kilmarnock at that time?
He was. I think. Did you go to Arsenal? I think at that time. Did you go down there
just
for a few
before
days?
I went down on trial. That's a good memory you've got.
Yeah, that's right. I was there at the time. I remember the talk in the dressing room.
It was strange because I was 19 and I was the big thing at Kilmarnock, and Arsenal wanted me to go pre-season with them, but more as a kid, kind of joining through pre-season. But Kilmarnock were like, well, he's doing pre-season with us. So anyway, worked out that I would go down for a few days, and I'm just thinking, I'm a 19-year-old walking about with my bench jacket and my rucksack on, going into training, go down to Arsenal. For some reason, went down with Jim Jeffries and the chairman of Kilmarnock, like random. But anyway, turn up at Arsenal and think, I'll just be in the reserve a few days. Kitman comes and I met Arsene Wenger, and then the Kitman takes me through and says, oh, come on, we'll get you changed. So walk into the changing room, Theo Walcott, Ashley Cole, Gilberto, and Adebayor. And I'm starstruck, but I'm actually meant to be training with these guys. So then had a few days, and it was a brilliant experience. But I remember being down there thinking, they could offer me any contract. I'm not moving to London. It's far too far away.
Seriously?
That's honestly, genuinely my biggest thought at the time. I just wasn't ready to move.
Theo Walcott asked for a shot of your bench jacket.
For years later, we ended up playing against each other and stuff like that. So that's amazing. Football is amazing that way. That
So was there an offer? How did that then kind of play out?
No, I
think just
probably wasn't good enough. And I went down for a few days. There was a reserve game that I didn't play in, so it was a couple of days training. Nothing really materialised, but it definitely opened my eyes up to what is world football.
You come through Birmingham. Andy, as well, which is maybe a slightly strange route in the sense that you're Scottish, but that's like your first kind of main club. There were some players involved in that team. I were having a wee look earlier on.
Yeah, I mean, everything changed. That was at Rangers as a kid from 8 years old and got to the age of leaving school, and there'd be a few English clubs, and I chose Birmingham. I think they were Championship at the time, and I thought, you know, big club, but maybe not too big enough that I can maybe go there and get to first team level. But it all changed in the first year. They got promoted to the Premiership. My first year there, and everything just went crazy. Came back after the summer. There was another floor on the training ground. There was an indoor pitch getting built. It just went boom overnight. Obviously, the money involved in the Premiership, and then the players like Christophe Dugarry and, you know, Robbie Savage, Emil Heskey, these guys start coming in.
The cars in the car park changed a wee bit.
A wee bit, yeah, just a wee bit.
How do you get to the point of going, right, I'm doing well in Scotland, I've got offers here, why England?
I went down. I'd been to Leeds, I'd been to Newcastle, I went down to Birmingham again, kind of similar few days, played a game. I just got a good feel for it. I just felt as if it was the right club for me. It made me feel very wanted. As I said, I thought it was a big club. I wanted to try something different. You know, I didn't want to go into, you know, a academy system up here. I'd played against these boys like growing up my whole life to that point. I wanted to go and try something different. I was playing against, you know, Man United, Liverpool's, Arsenal's every week, and playing against different players, and I just thought it would be right for me. It was a hard move. I was 16, moving away from my parents to Birmingham, and, you know, I think I thought it was a bit of an adventure. Looking back as a parent now, it must have been hard for my parents to allow me to do that, but it was great. It was a making of me as a player and as a person, really. I had to grow up pretty quickly.
I think thinking of your time at Everton, Alan, you spanned a really interesting era, I think, because, you know, fans up here will remember you playing with, you know, Paulo Di Canio and guys like that, but then you saw the start of Wayne Rooney as well. You really saw a real maybe change in kind of the modern player sort of thing.
I think what you're alluding to, Gordon, is that I played with players that carried me. No, I was very, very fortunate to play with some real quality players and iconic players, really. You know, you look at Wayne was just a freak. He really was. He was, you know, you get one of them probably in a lifetime. You know, it always makes me laugh a little bit because as when Wayne was coming through, we all knew about him, you know, and I think at the time it was Walter Smith who was brilliant with him. You know, there was a lot of pressure to try and push Wayne up through. You know, Wayne was playing in the under-18s at 14. You know, and he was just doing stupid things.
I played against him. He was a lot younger than me, and I think it must have been the 19s or something like that. We were all hearing about this lad doing amazing things, and this one Monday morning he turns up at the training ground, and he trains. He comes out, and he's like this young, real streetwise little. But he wasn't little, solid little. Well, he was small in size, but not. And he's comes and he's just in awe of all the players, mainly Big Duncan and a few others. And next minute he gets a bag of balls, and he's the first on the training pitch before we go out. And he gets the balls out, and he's just chipping balls onto the crossbar from 18-yard box, then 25 yards, and then kept going back to halfway line. And then literally about 15 minutes before we started to do the warm-up, he said, take some shots. I mean, this is the first kid on his first day in training against seasoned pros. Yeah, I'm going now. And he's pulling balls up the top corner.
He thinks he's playing their part.
Honestly, that's what
it's
like.
His strength, wasn't it, at that age?
And he was awesome. And then he trained with us. And I was up against him a few times. And I'm marking him and stuff, and I'm saying, he was doing things that he just shouldn't have been doing. You know, his brain was so advanced. It was incredible. His touch, his awareness, his movements. You know, as you'd expect, he goes on and does what he did. But he was, and I unfortunately had the unenviable task of trying to look after him.
See when he was
not easy.
See when he goes onto the training pitch, right?
Yeah.
And you say he's in awe of everybody. How long a period does it go before you look and you go, oh, he just knows he's the best? He's not passing the safe pass, or he's not, you know, the things that happen in training with young players. How long a period is there before he goes, no, give me the ball, I'm going to do it?
his arrogance and his swagger
Yeah.
was there from the
Was
first
it?
training session. He knew exactly what he needs to do. He was not in awe of anybody. He was in awe of the individual
Yeah.
and what they'd done,
But when you're on the pitch.
but not as in ability of a footballer.
Right.
It was incredible. You
So
know,
when
it's
you
just-
said you had an enviable task of looking after him. What do you mean? So was that the manager put that on you?
Well,
And
yeah.
How
and
did
so,
that play out?
so it was. So next minute, Walter obviously was there, and then David Moyes took over quite quickly after Walter, after that season, and so the gaffer said to me, you know, listen, this kid's got a bright future. We could all see that. He said, you know, you need to look after him. So I would then drop him off home after training, pick him up, and then he was asking for bits of advice because everything was just coming at him thick and fast. And I remember one pre-season we'd gone away, and we were over in Portugal, and David Moyes gone to me, Stubbsy, listen, whatever you do not let him drink. You know what's like, the press are everywhere. There's cameras going to be following us. You know, do not let him drink. So anyway, we've trained, and the gaffers give us a night out. So he's come out, and I've said, listen to Wayne. I've said, Wayne, listen, you know, you can't have a drink. And he's gone, oh, come on, Stubbsy, fucking hell, seriously. You know, he said, I'm 16. So I said, listen, all right, I'll let you have a couple, but like, you can't drink the way we're drinking, you know, type of thing. It's just not possible. He's gone, okay, I'll just have a couple then. So anyway, drink, one for Wayne. Anyway, drinks were coming, and he's just drinking as if he's one of the seasoned pros. And I've gone, listen, that's enough now. And he's gone, I'll just have one more. I said, okay, one more, and that's enough. So anyway, the night's gone on. We got to about 12:30. Wayne was putting me in a taxi. So every now and then I'd have one of Wayne's, and I'd have mine, and he put me in a taxi at 12:30. We'd been out since 6 o'clock. He put me in a taxi, took me back to the hotel, took me to my room, put me in bed, and he got back in the taxi and come back home.
What did Moyes say to you in the
He
morning?
didn't know anything
Did you
about
put
it.
him at bed?
No, he didn't. He said everything got right last night, Stubbsy? And I said, yeah, Gaffer said he was good as gold. He said, brilliant. Had a couple of drinks, let him have a couple, and that was it. That was Wayne.
So he was advanced in his years in every
every
walk of
aspect,
life,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
I don't know who we're going to talk about. Let's talk Scottish Cup. We've got the Alan Stubbs derby.
Okay, yeah.
Celtic and HIBS.
Yeah.
That's for so many reasons. That's an absolute cracker this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, tied around, you know, for all reasons. I think Hibs have got the team that nobody really wanted, and everyone wanted to try and avoid. But the one thing that Hibs have done is that they've planted a seed in terms of beating Celtic a couple of weeks ago. Listen, I think we all know that Celtic are going to be overwhelming favourites, but I really do think with the form and the confidence that Hibs are in right now, it's going to be a tough game for Celtic, and Celtic are going to have to be, I think, at their best to come through the game.
In the loosest sense, because we know the Celtic team are incredible and look very hard to beat. I take it your favourite Scottish Cup memories, part of that Ross County team that beats them at Hampden. What do you remember of that day?
Yeah, well, it was a great day. Probably a highlight of my career, in fairness. It was actually pretty comfortable on the day. I think they put us under a bit of pressure towards the end, but 2-0 victory. It wasn't like a smash and grab, as I recall it. People might think differently, but in the game as a player, we felt pretty comfortable within the game. You know, we're holding our own. It wasn't like a backs to the wall, barring maybe 10 minutes. The scoreboard actually stopped working during the game. So we didn't know the time, which was great. I don't know,
like that.
Absolutely, because you didn't know, that way when you're holding on, you're constantly looking how long to go. For some reason it malfunctioned and it wasn't working, so it was actually probably great. We were just playing in the game and just playing on in the game, and obviously it was great occasion. Semi-final, getting to a final, Scottish Cup final is what we all dream of as kids growing up, and yeah, it was a great day. And
will we give him his moment to see the goal that he sets up?
Oh yes.
Why not? Yeah. Come on, look at this. We've dug out the footage for you. Talk us through it. Come on. Give us the commentary. I'm just going to the corner when I pick up the ball, to be honest. I'm thinking, just keep running. It's obviously 87th minute, and I thought, wait a minute.
Heavy touch.
I thought it was a good touch.
That was a good one.
I think it was Naylor that was trying to keep up with me. I don't know where I got that pace from, to be fair. It's probably the quickest I ever run. But no, it was just that my initial thought was just running to the corner, then it kind of opened up. and I could hear Martin Scott screaming. I couldn't see him, to be honest. I kind of played the ball blind, just sort of making sure I was getting in the box. I could just hear him screaming for the ball, and I just took a wee gamble, and yeah, it was a great run for him as well in the 87th minute to make up that ground. And
the feeling though,
nice.
surely when that goes in, you go, right, well, we've made it, we've done it, because there is no enough time.
I think so, yeah. I remember Willie Collin was the ref, and we're kind of over the corner towards the Ross County fans, and big pile up, everyone's there, and Willie sort of said, "Come on, let's hurry this up." I said, "Willie," I said, "I've just scored a second goal."
What also people won't appreciate is the sun shining on Hampden on a massive pitch, man.
Exactly. So
never nice.
It was obviously I was playing up top on my own that day as well, so it was a tough shift. So I genuinely don't know where I got.
I was going to say, how you still get that burst in the 8th minute? Are you worried from Derek Adams at that point because that has to go in, or you're getting an earful for not taking?
Probably,
the corner,
probably. But I backed myself in the end, and obviously when Martin was there and tucked it in, so it was good day, good night.
There's an obvious Scottish Cup memory for this man, but it's made me think, what was better, the rendition of Sunshine on Leith that day or the one last weekend?
Oh, I tell you what, they were both good. I think I know which one I'm going to pick, and I think, to be fair, a lot of Hibs fans as well, with the occasion. To be honest, at one point I was close to missing it, because I was getting dragged from here to everywhere with the stadium chief in terms of the police, because of what had happened, and I was getting called into all the meetings because I was wanting the players to have a lap of honour, and in no uncertain terms, the match day commander basically said to me, without excuse the French, "You've got fucking no chance," and that's exactly what he said to me, because of obviously what had gone on. He was a little bit peeved off, as you can imagine. And I nearly, was in and out I was trying to enjoy it, but obviously I was trying to do the best for the players, but it didn't happen. Obviously he got his way, but it's.
So you're going into that final, did you have real belief that we can do this here? It wasn't as if it was against a Celtic Ross County, and there was did you have real belief in
that season? Naisy was. I thought the two teams on the day were very close. Yeah. I think overall our head-to-head that season was probably 2-2. Mm-hmm. So we'd won at Ibrox, they'd won at Easter Road. Then I think we I don't know whether it was a draw, but overall our head-to-head in terms of 2 wins each. Really close. And there might have been a draw in there as well. But I felt as if we had players that could win the game. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure obviously Rangers did, but it's weird as a manager. Sometimes you go into games, you're going to win.
Yeah, you have that feeling.
You have that feeling, and I honestly believe that we were going to win that day.
I think the thing that, see, when you watch finals like that, and I've probably touched on it a few times, that it's not just the ability part; it's the mentality of that pressure. The game's coming to an end, second half, big moments, and it's the players that have got that calmness. That's really important.
We'd had a big disappointment the weekend before because we'd lost in the playoffs. Yeah. And I give the players a Sunday off, and I said to them on the Monday, we had a meeting, went into the dressing room, and we spoke about the disappointments of obviously missing out and not achieving our main goal in terms of promotion. But I said, what is in front here is potentially going to put you in the history books. And they train that week unbelievable. Their attitudes and their mentals, because a lot of the players, and more so the club, had a history of being renowned as they say, HIBS. They bottled it. Aye. And I had an incredible, and I find that really so disrespectful when people don't work with an individual and they say, they bottled it. When you work with someone week in and week out, and you know the mentality of them, for me, that's a real slap in the face. Mm-hmm. And I knew what I had. I knew what type of players, you look at what some of them have gone on to now, John McGinn, incredible. Yeah. And I just knew that we were going to win. Not in an arrogant way.
No, you just get that feeling.
Got that feeling. I had enough in the dressing room that could beat Rangers. And it was weird. Even at 2-1 down, I thought Rangers, their mentality is they'd won the game. I thought the players, when I looked at their players, they thought, that's it now, winning the
You
league.
could sense that.
I sensed it. And I obviously, when you talk about time, I lost track of the time. I was too much wrapped in the game. I didn't even look at the clock. I was too much, and we were in the ascendancy. And then we got the goal, and I didn't obviously realise how late on it was.
Yeah.
Listen, I didn't expect us to score 2 in such a late time. But, you know, the response after going 2-1 down, straight away, we were going up the other end and attacking. And it was, I thought, as a neutral watching the game, it was a great game of football. It was a really entertaining game of football. Two good teams.
Attacking teams, I thought, when you watched it. Yeah.
And thankfully, you know, it came out on our side.
How much pride do you take from David Gray? He gets Sir Hadded on to the Hibs fans as a result of that day, but now he's the guy that's trying to
Listen, it's great. The most important thing for me, or the most pleasing thing for me on that day, was what that give the fans, the staff, and the players. I said to them after the game, or even before, I'd been lucky enough to have that success as a player.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted them to share that feeling. It wasn't, I couldn't care less about me. It wasn't about me. It was all about them and all about the fans. And that's why you look back now and you say about, I was part of giving them something that they'll cherish for the rest of their life. You know, I was part of it. People will look at me as if like, oh, you were there. It wasn't. All I did was make decisions that helped achieve something. And you know, for me, seeing the smile and the pride and the jubilation on so many faces is worth the weight in gold.
We've spoken about this before, though, like the impact of that goal. Obviously, it wins the cup, but for all we know, if David Gray doesn't score that goal, he doesn't get the time that he's had as the manager now. He doesn't get the patience. Yeah. And now look at
it changes the direction.
You've been kind of
the club.
Pleased to see that patience in the job he's doing now.
Oh, he's brilliant. You know, Dave's a great lad. He's a very unassuming lad. He's very much the one that will take a back step and let the players take the adulation.
He has got I've got to know him on the pro license. He has got a confidence. He's got that reserve nature, and but he's got a real confidence and belief. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that struck me when I first met him.
He's one of them guys and all. Especially when I had him there, I knew that I didn't have to say anything to the players in general, because I knew Dave would do it for me. You know, so it would be, Dave, listen, I need you just to sort that out, and he'd go and do it. And he had the players' respect. Dave's one. Sometimes he doesn't have to say anything because his face will say it. You know, and I think that sometimes it's a good thing. You don't always want to be one that shouts and raves and does your voice. You've got to find a way that makes you what you are. And Dave, I think Dave will do very well. I really do. He had a tough start, which has actually probably not been a bad thing for him. And now he's seeing the bits where you get a lot of positive feedback and reaction. And the biggest thing for me last week that I see, which is a great thing for any manager, is I thought there was a real togetherness in the Hibs team.
Agree. I think it's the first time in many years that there's a connection there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
What's the bittersweet bit like for you, Andy, where you get that great memory and you think, how much harder can it get? You having to beat Celtic at semi-final stage and then fall short in the final. Any regrets?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a Ross County perspective, the final was a disappointment. Dundee United were a good side. They had lots of good players that went on to play and get moves and whatever. So Peter Houston was a manager. I think he'd done a number on us. He'd watched us a lot of times before that game. He really did a lot of homework on us, as you would expect. But he was well set up for that game. I think they paid us a lot of respect for the amount of times that they were coming to watch us. There were midweek games. We had a lot of midweek games because of catching up in fixtures because of the cup run, and it was in Dingwall quite a lot. He was probably sick of that A9 road, but credit to him, he certainly had done his homework, which was a mark of respect. But yeah, it was disappointing. I think when you have that such a big high in a semi-final, it almost becomes your final, doesn't it? As the Ross County players anyway. So it was disappointing. It was 3-0. I don't think it was a 3-0 game. I think they scored their first goal 60th minute or something like that. So the scoreline maybe doesn't reflect, just it was tighter than probably what it looks like looking back. But yeah, it was disappointing. But again, that night you can sort of sit back and the disappointment's there, but then you can sort of sit back and just realise just how big an achievement it was to be there in a game like that for a squad of players.
There definitely is a frustration I was similar in the League Cup. We beat Motherwell in the semi-final, but when you get to the final, it was us versus Hibs. So you actually go into it thinking, we've got a chance. Yeah, they're the better team, but we've got a chance. We could beat 5-1 in the final, but it's devastating because you think you've got the optimism going into it that, we've got a right chance here. And then when it's taken away, it's the hardest thing in football, isn't it? Losing them big games.
See, to take you back to your playing career and what the Scottish Cup meant, Alan, I wonder, a really powerful example of how football and life, Scottish Cup and life collided for you, because it was after the 99 final, your drug test is what flags up the testicular cancer, is that right?
Yeah, we just lost the game 1-0. I think it was Rod Wallace who scored.
That's right,
the winner. And the same, I think late on, the goal. And we've come off, and I was obviously frustrated more than anything. You've just lost the game. And I didn't even get a chance to get down the tunnel. I got pulled to one side, been selected. And then you're into with the drug testers, and you're basically, I think if anyone never known, you're just basically man-marked. You can't go anywhere, can you? Literally.
I got drug tested after that final as well.
They get worse over the years. It would have been all right. You're probably in the same room. See, nowadays, they are man-marking you in the cubicle.
And then, like anything, I passed the sample after about an hour, and then then you could drink anything. They were giving you, bottle of beer, water, energy drinks. Whereas now I think it would probably be a little bit different. And then done it, got back on the bus, don't think nothing of it. And then it was 3 weeks later, I got a call from our club doctor, Jack Mulhern, and he said, "Alan, how are you?" I said, "Yeah, great, just enjoying my rest and, in the off season." And he said, "You bought your drug test?" I said, "Oh yeah." I just expect him to say, "Yeah, everything's all fine, all clear." He said, "How are you feeling?" And I thought, in the back of my mind, I thought, it's a bit of a strange question to ask. I said, "Yeah, I feel great, really good." He said, "Your drug tests come back positive." I went, "It's impossible. Not a chance." Obviously, straight away thinking to drugs. I said, "Don't do drugs, it's just not me." And he went, "No." He said, "Listen, I know that." He said, "How are you in general? With you feeling and stuff?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Honestly, I feel really good." He went, he said, "Well, the reason why it's positive," he said, "you're producing a hormone that's normally only found in pregnant women, but when it's found in men, it's linked to cancer. That's why I asked the question, how are you feeling?" And then straight away it linked in, and I said, "Well, I have been feeling a little bit discomfort in one of my testicles." He said, "But it's been it'll come and then it'll go for months." He went, "Okay." He said, "We need to get it checked." He said, "I'm sure it's nothing, blah, blah, usual, just start to reassure you." He said, "But we need to get it checked." So anyway, that was the Friday. I was up on the Monday, went to get an ultrasound, and then clear as day. Your healthy testicle was like a light grey colour. And then the other testicle was white and grey, but the bottom, half moon of it, was black. He went, "That's the cancer. We need to obviously investigate it now and do a biopsy." So it did that. Basically, they removed the testicle, come up through like a hernia, and did a biopsy. All great, all clear. There was nothing had spread. I was back playing within 4 weeks.
See from the moment that it's linked to cancer, let's check. What was going through your mind?
To be honest, it was all a bit of a whirlwind. So I didn't really probably have time to reflect, because as soon as I'd been told that it could be cancer, I was up on the Monday and he said that, and I was in getting an operation, and it was getting removed. And then within a few days, they'd come back and said, everything's all clear. It hasn't spread anywhere. And I was literally then back to doing a pre-season. So I didn't really have time to digest it all. And it wasn't until 18 months later that when I had a relapse and I was getting follow-up scans, they'd found a tumour at the base of my spine, which was the size of a pea. And basically they had to cut me open, take everything out to get to it. And that was the daunting bit. That was the bit where it really struck home to think, oh shit, I'm in trouble here. Because I was down to have 4 courses of chemotherapy. That I had 2, and that's when they decided to go in and operate. But in the meantime of going through the chemotherapy, I was in hospital in Glasgow, and the name of it just escapes me at the moment. And as I'm in there, when you're going through chemotherapy, it's basically, well, at the time it was a bag of chemotherapy with a black bin liner over it because it supposedly gets affected by sunlight. So you'd have that and then saline. That, saline, chemotherapy, saline. And it'd be like that, constant, for 24 hours for a couple of days. And every time the bag finishes, alarm goes off. So you're not sleeping. So every hour and a half, 2 hours, it's a beep, beep, beep. And if it's not your alarm, it's someone else's alarm. So anyway, so that's happening. And then this lad's walking up and down the corridor holding his bag, and he's walking up and down, he's looking in. He's obviously a Celtic fan. And the nurse comes into me and says, Alan, listen, I'm really sorry. He said, but see the lad who's just been walking up down there for the last few hours? He said, he's a massive Celtic fan and you're his hero. Could you have a chat with him? He's struggling a bit at the moment to come to terms with this. So anyway, I said, yeah, no problem. So he's come in. He sat down. He's gone, oh, really, thanks for speaking to me and all. I said, how are you getting on? I said, yeah, good. And we're having a chat, and he's a really nice lad. And I'd just finished reading the Lance Armstrong book, which really helped me, to a certain extent, until I found out afterwards, that it wasn't necessarily all what it was made out to be. And I've gone, listen here, I've signed this for him. So have that. I said, read that. It might help you. It might not, but obviously it might. So anyway, he's gone, oh, thanks very much. Great. And he's gone back out. And then I'd come back in for my second course of chemotherapy. And as I'm getting settled in, started me back, and the nurses come in and said, where's the guy that I spoke to last time? I think it was Michael. She said, oh Alan, I'm really sorry. He passed away yesterday. And that's the bit, and that was the moment where I thought, shit, this is
serious. Yeah.
And before that, whether it was, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, I don't know whether I was naive. I don't know whether I thought it was really serious. It was then where I thought, oh dear. And then I've gone out. After that, I've had the operation, and then the operation was just a horrendous ordeal. I was due to get an epidural to help with the pain relief, and the epidural was supposed to work from there all the way down to just below my belly button, because that was where the pain was and where they cut me open. The epidural, it wouldn't go in because he said my muscles or my back muscles were too strong, and he couldn't get the epidural in. And we were pushed for time. He said, Alan, listen, I'm just going to have to get it in somehow. He said, so my pain relief was from there upwards. So when I've come out of the operating theatre, so basically I just felt like as if someone was stabbing me with hot knives. The pain was horrendous. And it was just about then trying to get the morphine into me, any painkillers into me. So anyway, they're trying to give me as much as they possibly could. It was having no effect because it was taking a bit of time to go in. And after about a couple of hours, my body shut down. I went completely numb. So the painkillers had all started to slowly kick in, and my body was basically, I couldn't move. I was a corpse, basically. I was a corpse just lying there. And the only thing that was moving was slightly my mouth like that and my eyes. Everything else I couldn't feel. And that was pretty scary. I thought I was paralyzed. I thought I was never going to play football again. And the nurse come in, and I'm trying to talk, and she said, listen, Alan, it's completely normal. What's happened, we've got the painkillers into you that quickly. Your body's just like, oh, what's going on? And shut down. And the following morning, I'd literally started to get slight pins and needles in my toes, which the feelings were starting to come back. And it was the best feeling. Honestly, sex, anything. It's the best feeling I've ever had. Sorry to my wife, Mandy. Sorry. It was the best feeling I've ever had in my life. And I thought, okay, start to get back on the mend.
That's unbelievable. I mean, it feels crazy to put anything else on the table here. Like, how do you follow on from that? Everything must come into perspective, because then, if we're linking it to the Scottish Cup, you're an unused sub in 2001. But I'm guessing by that point, you're like,
well, that season was incredible to be there, because obviously I'd come back, and the first game that I came back in was at HIBS away. And Martin had put me on, and I'm dressed, ready to come on. And next minute, the whole of the ground stand up and start to give me a standing ovation. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose it here. I'm going to lose it. Lump in my throat, trying to hold back the tears. And then I've come on, and worst case scenario, I've gone on guns, I've scored. So so it was like it was as if I wasn't ready. I'll 100% admit my scar was still healing, but I was just desperate to get playing. I just wanted to play. So as soon as I was playing, and as soon as I felt anyone start to pull me, I could feel the scar starting to pull apart and stuff like that. But I was just desperate to play. So yeah, it was. You know, when you say sometimes your life's mapped out and it's already all planned. You know, it's weird the way that was my first game back, Hibs. Then years to come, my first managerial career, job, Hibs. It's just it's weird the way just things just seem to fall into place.
You know, you said you were feeling comfortable now about being the kind of on this side of the table. Do you want to try and handle the link from that to the next bit of the show?
Not ready for that yet. Baby steps.
I don't know if I am either.
Baby steps for me. I pass that back.
Sorry, lads. Sorry.
To be fair, the biggest perspective there is, and when you talk about coming on at Hibs, that it is more than just a game. And that sums up. That's why it's one of the best sports in the world, because moments like that, I would think, to be honest.
Listen, and the way people, and when I look back and reflect now, this is the weird bit about it, is that people go, how unlucky was you? And I'm like, are you for real? How lucky was I? If I wasn't a footballer, I'd be dead.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would, because we get so much special treatment. We are looked after so well. We are, I've always said it, we are in a bubble. Sometimes we are in a completely false bubble that is not in line with the outside world. You know, we get the best of treatment. We get the best of food. We get treated like kings, especially now Premiership players.
Yeah.
And I had that as well. We are so fortunate. And if we get the best of healthcare. We get moved to the front of the queues whenever we're getting scans. You know, so for someone to stand down and say, how unlucky was you? If I wasn't a footballer, honestly, I can say I would be dead. Because I don't know whether I would have had the strength, or maybe, when I say the strength, I don't know whether I would have done the human thing, because as a man, you think, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
I'll be all right. And every day that was passing by was taking a chance off the possibility of me overcoming it.
I'll tell you who is unlucky. Andy Barrowman, who now has to tell us about what it's like leaving leaving Raith Rovers, and actually now can't moan as much about it as he could have 20 minutes ago.
Exactly.
But seriously, what how's life been? Like we said, your Wikipedia's called you journeyman striker, but most recently we know you in Scottish football as being the CEO of Raith, and then that came to an end, it seemed abruptly from the outside, so I'm guessing very abruptly for you, or?
Yeah, abruptly, that's the word I would use to describe it. I'm sitting here thinking, and you're hurting with decisions, and especially when you care so passionate about a role that's taken away from you, but it doesn't really matter, does it? And in the grand scheme of life, it's football, it's things like that. But yeah, no, it was a shock to the system. I think the changes that's happened at the club and everything that's went with it sort of speak for itself. I'm sitting here today pretty content. I know about the part I played. It wasn't just all me. There's a team of people and a lot of people out there that was part of that journey. But I'm sitting pretty content today that I know I've had an impact on that club, and an impact that will stand in good stead for 10, 20, 30 years to come. So I'm okay. It's disappointing at the time, but I'm fairly relaxed in terms of where I am and my part I played in the journey of the last couple of years.
It's got a unique perspective though, because we've had a few guests now. We're talking about coaching is now not the only avenue for people. People might want to go. David Marshall was on last week talking sporting director. You've done something kind of similar, becoming CEO. What's it like when the call comes that type of roles come to an end? Think is it similar? Do you think to Steven?
Yeah, probably is. I mean, I think I'm fortunate. I've got another business away from football, which I was kind of working in and quite happy working before I was sucked back in, if you like. But yeah, you're trying to fill your time. You're used to a routine. You're used to football is all consuming, whether it being a player, a manager, a CEO. You immerse yourself in it. It's 24/7.
Did the call just come out of the blue as far as you?
Yeah, I mean, I think relationships maybe with 2 or 3 people within the club had become a bit strained from my perspective, and I think I didn't see it coming, but I think you can sort of not always rosy, if you want to put it that way, But certainly it was a shock. I didn't see it coming at all.
How do you get down the CEO route? Like a player, the easy thing is coach and management, or the most natural thing, but how does that path?
I was never interested in coaching. It wasn't something that really interests me at all, even towards the latter stages of my career. I was always interested in the business side of football. I was always kind of drawn to, you know, as players, you have to go to these like sort of commercial events, and you're kind of getting dragged there, aren't you? Let's be honest. But I was always really interested. I was always asking lots of questions. Commercial directors, people that worked round and around the club. I don't know why. It's probably just that was my interest. That was my passion. I went and did a degree when I was 28. I was still playing at the time. I did a degree through FIFPro. It was all online. It was through a Danish university. It was business management, but it was all related to professional sports people. So on my course, there was, you know, professional handball players, badminton players from all over the world. It wasn't just footballers. So it was great. It was a great learning experience. It worked well with me in terms of still playing at the time. And it just sort of got the juices flowing, and we did studies on different clubs, not just football clubs, different sporting clubs around the world. And I just really, really interested, and it gripped me. And I just thought, you know, this is the career I want to do. I started at that point, you know, I worked a bit with an agent because I thought that will benefit me later down the road. I think I'll learn from different aspects of the game. I had the playing aspect. I thought if I can go the other side of the fence as an agent, I was just kind of started working towards my end goal of being, you know, maybe not a CEO, but working within an exec of a football club. And it just sort of fell into place. I then worked with a sports brand, Joma. Again, that gave me another perspective from a different, you know, negotiating kit deals and things like that, and being around football, being around sporting organisations. And it just sort of took me on a path that sort of led to that opportunity. And, you know, it's a path I want to continue on, and I feel really passionate about it. I think I'm good at it. I think I've got a skill set that can allow me to have a career in it. And yeah, that's kind of where we are.
Do you know what I've realised actually? Because football management's obviously very stressful, as you two can look how fresh-faced he is for a 40-year-old.
No,
I was just thinking that he's
Trust me,
taking the right
I've had
choice.
a couple of weeks rest. I was not fresh-faced.
He's looking good.
No, I was not fresh-faced a few weeks ago. It is all-consuming.
Yeah.
You know, my wife and kids probably suffered a lot, as you do when you're involved in football. I've had to kind of reintroduce myself to them the last few weeks, but I've enjoyed the break. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm feeling rested, and yeah, so I probably wasn't as fresh-faced a couple of weeks ago.
What was the degree like? Did you do a dissertation in some sort of mad aspect of Scottish football or anything? What was the...
Yeah, I did at the end. It was 4.5 years. It was tough to begin with. I'd left school at 16. I basically hadn't lifted a pen to the age of 28.
Signing the big contracts though. That's the only time.
Contracts, maybe not big, but yeah, you had to get. It was all in your head, really. I was fortunate. I was okay at school. I'd got some hires behind me, but you're out of that mode of learning. Trying to write academically again after all the years was it blew my mind. I couldn't do it. I remember saying to the missus at the time, I was like, I can't do this. Like, there was steam coming up my ears. I was sitting trying to study, and I thought, I'm not cut out for that. But I think gradually you just keep the head down, you just work through it. It just becomes normal. What had I sacrificed? Playing golf or going to Starbucks with the boys? Or what was I really sacrificing to put into the rest of my life?
I think that's a really important point, especially in football. I think Scottish football is getting better over the years, but going from doing that and having loads of time as a player because you need to rest your body, to actually getting back into whether it be education or a real working hours it's the hardest part.
I think with footballers, I think too many times they downplay their ability because they pigeonhole themselves as in you just go to coaching.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, I think what happens is that when you do feel uncomfortable, it's because you're taking out your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Because you're only used to kicking the ball. You know, you've been used to so many times kicking the ball, but then when you do start to do a different side of football, whichever, or any business, it's the reason why you think it's difficult is because you're out your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I think once you get your head into it,
absolutely.
It's funny you saying that. That's what people have asked me when I went into coaching. Oh, how did you know that's what I say to them all the time? No matter what you go into, you need to give it at least 6 months to a year, because the first 2-3 months I went home every day coaching like, this isn't for me, but it's because you're so uncomfortable.
You had the desire to go back, Alan. So St Mirren, very short time, and then it comes quite hot on the heels of the success at HIBS, and then to have it end so quickly at St Mirren. Does that scunner you? Does that put you off? Or
it made me realise, just in terms of more to life. You know, obviously I looked at it. I've gone from Hibs, which was a great setup, and I've said it before. And this is not this is common knowledge, is that I made a mistake. You know, I jumped too quick. You always think the grass is greener on the other side, and you think that conveyor belt is going to keep going. And I thought the next step, going to the Championship, I did think that I doubted whether even winning the Championship was going to be bigger than winning the Scottish Cup. I just thought the impact and what it meant, 114 years, everything, it was hard to top. You know, this shouldn't come out the wrong way, but I knew we were going to win the league the following year. The squad was too good. We didn't have a Rangers in there. We didn't have a Hearts in there. You know, the first year when I took over was probably the strongest Championship that we've ever seen. You know, Hearts romped it because they were ready for it. And then the second year, Rangers, obviously with their squad and it was the size of their squad was the reason why I think they got over the line. But you go from a real good setup, and then the setups at St Mirren and Rotherham were completely different. And you feel as if you're getting dragged into doing everything rather than the one thing that you more or less often not come in for, is to focus on the team and the coaching. You know, there was no recruitment set up at either of them clubs. It was a little bit of a basket case, if I'm going to be honest. But, you know, you have to take everything on board. And it was a mistake. You know, I did things wrong as well. It wasn't just that. I made mistakes as well. You'd have to take too many gambles, and that was the problem. I felt uncomfortable because I was having to gamble. It wasn't the way I would normally work, but you've got to get players in somehow as quickly as possible.
Where do you sit now? Like, would you go back to be? Have you got a desire to go back in and be a manager?
There's not a desire. Listen, if something really interesting did come up, would I consider it? Yes, but I tell you what, I wouldn't be sending me CV in to everything. You know, there's more to life, and I think that's probably made me.
That you can get to that position as well. Like, that's difficult in itself.
You don't really want.
And I think sometimes, as managers, is that they have to get back in as quickly as possible, because some of them don't necessarily have the career or have not earned as much money, so they've got to work again. And that's why it's not about, sometimes they say about pick your job wisely. Some of them are just putting the name into any job because they need to get back in, and I totally get that.
I think that we obviously went through a couple of managerial changes, and you're getting CVs from people you like not heard of for 10 years that have been in football at good levels, and think, well, why are they applying for a Raith Rovers job? With all due respect, like, why are they applying for that?
What was the decision?
That desperation to get
See, on that, what was the decision like to sack Ian Murray? Because from the outside, that got a lot of attention, didn't it? Because the season had just started. I think I remember I was working at the Dundee Derby that day, so it was the first weekend of the season. How did that decision come about, and how do you feel about the kind of blowback it got from people on the outside?
Yeah, I think you learn, don't you, from decisions. I still ultimately think it was the right decision. Certainly around about the timing, we could have done things differently, but I think I was very certain, others were very certain in mind it was the right thing for the club longer term. We obviously got a bit of pain, and you know, the season has transpired. It's not helped in terms of where they sit currently with the upheaval, and then the second managerial, the change that comes
California.
Exactly. So, you know, sometimes you reap what you sow, don't you, a little bit, but ultimately 100% the right decision. I was there every day. I seen what happened every day. I knew it was the right decision. I'm still sitting here today knowing it was the right decision, in my opinion. That's what you're paid to do. So no regrets in that way, but certainly around timing, we probably could have handled it a little bit different. And I think I've learned from that experience, and would maybe do things differently than what we did at that point.
See, to take you right back then, because it is such an interesting journey where you've kind of seen all sides of it. Go back to the start. You were surrounded by some proper big characters at Birmingham. You were there at the same time as Chris Sutton.
Yes, latterly that was probably my last year.
What are your memories there?
A funny story actually. I stayed in sort of an apartment block just outside Solihull, just quite near Birmingham. There was a few of the players, the younger players, had sort of got flats there. It was kind of the good bit to stay, and Chris had got a flat. He was a lot bigger apartment than what we were in. I'll give it that. He had a balcony, we did. But So used to see him. There was like shops and restaurants round about underneath the apartments. So he'd never speak to us. Like if we walked past in Tesco, he would just, I didn't exist. But then the next day in training, he was brilliant. He's a striker. I was a striker, and he would be training and he'd be talking you through. But then that night again in Tesco, he'd just walk past you. So you're like, does he know I exist? Or
How many times have you went, well,
I stopped doing it, to be honest with you, because it was embarrassing. They do it the first couple of times, don't you? Think he's maybe just not seen me or one of them, but you just stop doing it, don't you? Then the next day he's saying, see when the ball comes into you, you have to use your body. You never in Tesco last night.
Did you ever say to him?
No. It's only a young lad, and he's obviously Chris Sutton, isn't he? He was kind of
dropping a shoulder past him, going from Tesco's.
You showed me this today in training, remember? It was one of them. It was just really funny, but it's great with the young lads in around the training ground, and just maybe like to keep yourself away from it.
But like I said, big names at Robbie Savage at that time as well.
Yeah, as I said, it all changed after that first year of promotion. So Emil Heskey, David Dunn, Robbie Savage, they were like the big signings initially, and then Christoph Dugarry, World Cup winner. What a CV. I remember we were training and we were doing, I think the younger lads, I'd kind of just done the fringes the first team at this point, and the younger lads went back out in the afternoon to do a session. So we're sort of on the training pitch, and then this group of people come walking up on the training pitch, and there was a guy with the long hair, and you can tell, he's not from Birmingham anyway, never that way. And you're training, so you're not really paying attention, and somebody said, that's Christoph Dugarry. Like, no way. So it was all hush-hush. No one knew he was coming in. There wasn't any speculation. And yeah, signed that day, and that was it. And it was
he as good as?
Oh, incredible!
Even though he was a bit older,
incredible. Honestly, he kept Birmingham in the Premiership on his own.
He was good.
He did in training some of the things he would do, and he was just a mercurial talent. It was unbelievable just to watch, just to be on the same pitch as him on a training pitch for a young lad. It was incredible. He was different class.
I think we've probably established. Let's put Wayne Rooney in this bracket. That's okay. We'll leave him there. Leave him there on his own. What about the others? Because I mean,
Maravchik, Di Canio, Gaza,
Larson,
Ginola.
Well, to be honest, Chris at Birmingham, he was the same at Celtic. So don't take it personal. That's Sussy in a nutshell. That's why I was chuckling, because when you said that there, I thought, yeah, I've seen that before. No, listen, there's so many. Even when I first come, Andreas Thom was some player. Biggest thighs you've ever seen on it. I
remember that.
Oh my God, you look, and I've not got small thighs, but Andreas Thom, oh my God. George Cadet, George was a brilliant goal scorer, and he didn't do anything during the week. George's legs must have been massaged to death. Honest to God, every day he was like, massage. No, I just got to do George first. And it was, honest to God, he was like constantly on the bed getting a massage all the time. But boy, could he score!
Maravchik,
unbelievable, best natural.
Again,
2-footed,
at his age,
unbelievable,
bit older, but still unbelievable.
Yeah, honest to God, he was the wizard. He was a technician. He was.
What was
the
it?
things
Does
he did?
Passes or what?
Naisy was one of them that could just do anything. One of them really annoying players. You think left foot, right foot, outside the foot, either foot. He's obviously the member one where he controlled it with his backside.
And did you not know much about him before? I know
we didn't know nothing.
And does that add to the impression almost?
I don't think anybody really, because he was. I think he was. Was he? He was. Joseph Engos's signing, wasn't he? I think at the time. And so we didn't obviously know. And he's come in and he was just, wow. Drop on his shoulder. Honestly, he was a brilliant player. Really, really. When you think about who's been there, Di Canio, Larson, you look at even like midfield players, Paul Lambert was a brilliant player. Paul McStay, I had the privilege of playing with Paul McStay for the first season. So I didn't really probably appreciate how good he was. Brilliant players.
As a centre-half, though, your perspective, or as footballers, your perspective will be different. So you appreciate a Lambert, Paul McStay.
Yeah.
Whereas most fans are just looking at the goal scorers and the amazing talents. But out of that list, even Ginola, Gascoigne, if you're picking one or two, who are you putting at the top of the list?
Well, you've got Wayne at the top. and I think really, really, literally only just below it is Lawson. Lawson was incredible.
He was amazing.
Even as a centre back, and I could pass a ball, but he made my passes so easy because he would just go there and peel away, you know. And luckily enough, his runs were that good, and I could find them. But I was glad that in the end he didn't. Obviously, he had Celtic for a long time, but he went to United.
Yeah,
he went to Barcelona, and people then, you
Sat
know,
up and took notice.
not just within Scotland, because obviously everyone knew how good he was, but people outside then appreciated it, I think, and wrongfully, how good he was.
Johan said that last week, that people in Sweden had just, he's just at Celtic, he just perform.
Yeah.
But then later on in his career to go and do it to the biggest.
Who was the in the purest sense of the word, the best striker you played with? Not relationship with you or anything like that, just the highest level. Just
probably Lukaku.
Yeah, I wondered.
I think so. Just because he had everything. He was big, he was strong, but he had a finish. He had a finish, he had a coolness in front of goal. But for me, talking about that appreciation, I probably appreciate Kenny Miller more than anybody, because he would do the graft. He was an intelligent player, and he would also, the Boyds and even Lukaku's of this world, if they've got half a chance, they're taking it on. If Kenny had half a chance, but you had a better percentage chance, he'd give you the ball. So as a player, you build that natural relationship. So Jelavic was another one that was. Lukaku was probably
was Dugarry the best, or any of the others that stood out?
Emil Heskey was really good. Talk about underappreciated players, like the
is he not like freakishly strong?
Ridiculous, unplayable on his day at the very, very top level, you know, against the best defenders. I'm sure if you asked any of the top operators, you know, your Rio Ferdinands, I'm sure they didn't enjoy playing against Emil Heskey. He was unplayable with everything. He was a bit unselfish, unassuming character, just really nice, quiet spoken. But in a game, if he was on his game, he was unbelievable. You hear others talking, don't you? You hear like you know, players that played with him at Liverpool talking about how much they enjoyed playing with him. He was very good as well.
There's a crazy dynamic, obviously, in this city, Alan, in Glasgow, where so you win something with Hibs. It's about you and what you've won. When you stop 10 in a row, it's kind of what you've done to them, you've done to your rivals. So what's that type of achievement like to compare?
To be honest, that was that season was the most horrible season I've ever played my career in. It was horrible. It was just intense. It was more about the fear of failure, to be honest, because that's what we would have had to live with.
But the fear of the 10 in a row, not just the intensity of the Old Firm.
What it meant to the fans, you know, it was, and that season was, and I think the two of them had real similarities, because at the time Rangers were the stronger team. When Rangers stopped Celtic a few years ago, Celtic were the stronger team, and Rangers, I think Steven had got a team spirit. The biggest thing that got us through the season was our team spirit. Rangers, man for man, and a squad were better as players. You know, you look at the squad at the time; it was incredible. You know what they were doing, but our team spirit and our camaraderie was even better. I thought Rangers and their squad thought that it was just going to happen that season, and it was to and fro all the way, and in the end, we managed somehow to get across the line, but we were out all the time.
What was the manager like at that?
Wim,
brilliant, ahead of his time.
Brilliant. Wim was the quietest manager I've ever had in my life. You know, he was so calm and relaxed. We'd be getting beaten in one game, and like, it was really in the middle of the season, and he'd come in, and we were expecting, that's
an era of
and I'd been used to, you know, managers throwing things, getting people up against the wall, effing and blinding, shouting, everything kicking off. Wim comes in and he's just looking around, and then he'd go, "Boys, we must change our way of thinking." And we're just looking and going,
how does he get the buy-in for the players? So in any dressing room, a manager who's different and come across like that, there is definitely a few in that squad like that. What's this guy all about, man?
Yeah.
He's not got a clue. So how does he get the buy-in for you?
Well, he had Murdo McLeod with him, and Murdo was great
Yeah.
because he obviously was the different personality in that makeup. But Vim would just come around you and speak to you and go, listen, you know, we haven't been doing this properly. Think about this way. We need to start doing this, you know. And I think we all just thought he was saying the right things, but we all, I think, enjoyed someone who was obviously a World Cup winner.
Yeah.
You know, respected him as a player. How can you not? But in terms of then his management style, something we just all bonded with it. You know, and we all thought, yeah, we want to play for you. And that was the first time probably my eyes were open to a different style of management, because I'd only known one.
Winning games helps though as well, doesn't it? To get that buy-in. If you don't win games, then the players,
that's true.
you know, it's like they go, wait a minute, this guy's too different.
Yeah.
Winning games helps.
Yeah.
Seen, again, a loose sense, are there any lessons, do you think, for this current Rangers team, and that the challenge they face, and that you just need to find something, whether it is a crazy togetherness, whether it is that the team in the ascendancy does take their eye off the ball or drops off or gets complacent or whatever, or this Rangers team now looking at that type of challenge?
So. I think they've got good players in their squad. We've seen it this season at times. The natural ability, the football knowledge, the quality is there. I think the one thing they do lack is that to get that, you need guys in the dressing room who know how to individually coax the others with them. I think you've not got that many. You've got Tavernier, you've got John Souttar, maybe Butland, but there's not enough that is getting everybody, because in a dressing room, we might get on really well, but me and Stubbsy just are teammates, so it's trying to link all that together, and you need enough guys in the dressing room who drag them together and say, no, this is the way we're going. I think that's the part of that.
I think you mentioned David Gray. He was managing the dressing room before he was a manager. Yeah. You need a group, more often than not, it's a senior group. It doesn't always need to be, but you need a core that manage standards, drive standards. That's in any dressing room.
I just don't know whether the Rangers team look like they've got enough characters, strong characters, to really bond the players together. I think there's pockets.
Yeah, and I think that's hopefully, that's inevitably what the club have been thinking by bringing Griggsy back, bringing Barry Ferguson and Neil McCann and Billy Dodds in, is to get more of these people that are going, no, this is a standard, this is what we need to do.
And of course, they've got European action. We'll see how that happens. It's always a nice challenge for us when we record this on a Thursday morning, and we'll see what happens. And we can reflect on it. Of course, part of the whole story here, the reason we're on about it, is because Queen's Park managed to put Rangers out of the Scottish Cup. Can they keep the fairy tale going? You'll have seen them closer than us. Andy, can they go up to Pittodrie? They've been there in the League Cup and lost. Yeah,
I mean, I think obviously what they did in the previous round gives them a chance, doesn't it? It shows that what they're capable of. I think it's a tough ask, especially going up to Pittodrie. I expect Aberdeen to be too strong for them. But you never know. It's the cup, isn't it? How often do you see the cup throwing up these little opportunities for clubs?
You were in one. You were telling us about
exactly
your cup
it
shock.
happens. So I think Aberdeen will be too strong, especially at home. But you never know.
You hear about this, like the cup's a welcome break. Sometimes people say if you're not having a great time in the league, I don't think Dundee are. Obviously, as the table suggests, they also lost heavily to Hearts at Dens. Can all of that go out the window and they go and cause a...
I think the cup can be like a distraction. It can be a change because the format, the game will go to penalties and the way of the game. But the relentless nature of this period of games, that you've got midweek games, that's the tough part for Dundee, to try and just change that. Everything that could go wrong is going wrong. I think Hearts, off the back of the Derby defeat, will want to show we're that's a blip. It's not anything more. And every team sitting there knowing that Rangers are out will be rubbing their hands going, we've got a chance.
Is that the jeopardy for Hearts? The size of the club, obviously, and the expectations. You go from having a pretty good time, really. If you look at the form from the turn of the year, they've been good. If you lose a derby and go out of the cup at home to Dundee in the space of a week, that's a sea change, isn't it?
Yeah, it just adds that pressure and builds. And there will, from the Hearts fans every year, there is an expectation and a belief that cup's a realistic thing to win. And I think it is. I think they should have that mindset. but it's a big game for them tomorrow night.
I would think, as a club, I would think they would probably budget to reach minimum quarter-finals or
They've got a good recent
semi-finals.
record,
I
don't
would
they,
I would expect so. At a club like that would be kind of the norm. So
I think if you look at your Aberdeen, your Hearts and your Hibs, if they're not playing a Celtic or a Rangers, then they are expecting to be getting to this round. I would have thought them clubs would budget.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah,
it's it couldn't really be set up better, could it? I take the point that Hibs are obviously still underdogs and Celtic are favourites, but they couldn't really be going in better form. They're the informed team in the country. They also, the beauty of the cup, going to get 7,000 fans heading there.
Yeah.
Do you think is it harder still because it's Celtic Park? Is it Hampden? Do you want to wait and meet them at Hampden if you can?
I think this is the round that you dare to dream. You're starting to get close. And I look at obviously the fixtures there, and my head tells me, realistically, it's looking like it could be 4 home wins there for them teams. Mm-hmm. You could see Livingston beating St Johnstone, but you could also see St Johnstone. That is the one that's really in the balance. I think Celtic is with if it was at Hibs, you would still think Celtic would be slight favourites. But the fact that it's at Celtic Park,
the last result as well. Celtic, as a player, you're like, we better not let that happen again.
You think that adds something?
Oh yeah,
definitely. Let's show them that they're not. And it's silly things as well. After the game, the players will have been celebrating, and for the Celtic players, the Hibs players will have been celebrating too much. And it's let's show that's just the players. That's the mentality of a football.
I mean, Livy St Johnstone it's a great opportunity for both, isn't it? It's probably the draw that you want because Livy have got home advantage. At the same time, I'm not saying St Johnstone, they'll know how tough it is, but if you're going away to a championship club with a chance to get to the semi-finals, that's
the one that I think both will be sitting there 50-50. Like Livingston will be going, we're at home. I think Livingston look the most robust team in the championship in terms of streetwise and the recruitment of players that have got experience in the Premier League. St Johnstone are a good team. St Johnstone are a threat in every game. They've got Matt Kirk scoring goals, and they try and play a certain way, which the pitch should probably help. So I think they'll see it as a good opportunity.
Well, speaking of the championship, Livingston obviously leaving the rest of them to it, and it's some title race now, Andy, isn't it? We've spoken obviously many times about the no obvious big hitter in it this season. Hearts have been in there, and Hibs and Dundee United. We've been through it. For Ayr United to come back from 2-0 down, win 3-2 midweek, now go to Morton, Falkirk doing their part with a more comfortable win against another of your former teams this weekend in Dunfermline, but everybody's your former team. So it's heating up, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's nicely poised, obviously, just getting into the last quarter and the last 9 games to go. For me, I think Falkirk's been the best team, going by experience of playing against them, but I wouldn't write either of the other two off. Livingston, as he says, streetwise, know how to win games. It's nicely poised. I think Falkirk have to go to Livingston and Ayr in the last quarter, which is a big ask. So I think probably Falkirk have got the toughest run on paper, although in the nature of that league, anyone can beat anyone in a day. So it's nicely poised. It'll be interesting. I think there'll be points dropped. I don't see any of them going on a run that's going to kind of win 9 games, for instance, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
It's good to see 3 proper teams fighting it out. It's not as if there's one that's a way out in front that's the favourite.
4 points, isn't it, between the 3 of them?
Yeah.
League One fixtures as well. We're going to take credit for Charlie McGrew getting his first win as Kelty Hearts manager. He was in here. I think we gave him some sort of pep talk that helped him to it. But again, just extremely tight, isn't it? He's got home advantage this time against Montrose. You'll be keeping a wee eye out, see how he does.
Yeah, you always do it. I think players you played with and guys that you know you do kind of look out for. So that the result last week will be a big one for him, because the more weeks that pass, that becomes the mindset of, it's another game we've not won. So that'll definitely make him feel better.
Yeah, 4th v 1st in the Alloa game is there, and then into League 2 as well. Another division with plenty going on. We got a derby, Bonnyrigg, Edinburgh City. Yeah, with a few alternative Edinburgh derbies. Maybe not quite get the headlines at the one last week. I think the Spartans played them recently. So Bonnyrigg Rose and Edinburgh City. Bit of an Edinburgh derby there. And we'll take I think we're not quite at business end of the season. I think that officially kicks in after the international break. But we're getting there. So big games everywhere you look. The warm-up brought to you by William Hill, proper supporter of Scottish football. Okay, let's do the Rondo. you two are about to be put. Well, that
Okay.
two faces of people who don't really know what that is. We maybe should have explained it before we came on. So it's 5 semi-quick fire questions from me to you, Alan,
Yeah.
and from Steven to Andy. So let's take it away. I remember. How much coaching went into the winning goal in your first league match with Hibs? Do you remember it?
Don't remember it.
The goalie.
I'm terrible.
Your goalkeeper launched it over the head of his opposite number.
Oh God, yeah. How much coaching? None. Being honest.
It was a loaded question.
Yeah.
Never seen anything like that.
The wind went into it, but not coaching. I think did Tim Howard score one
Yeah.
at Everton? So
Because it was like that with Mark Oxley. It's just from one end to the other, isn't it? Right
To
over
be fair, the
the
one
goalie's
thing
head.
that he could do, he could kick it. He could launch it. You know, he's a big lad. So no coaching.
I watched it
No
back this
coaching.
morning. It's outrageous.
Stay off it.
Okay,
Yeah.
next one. A night out with Jason Cummings or a karaoke night in with Paolo Di Canio?
Oh, Jason. Jason, it'd have to be. It'd have to be. Great lad. Great lad.
Challenge?
To challenge. But my phone was on 24 hours a day because of Jason.
And what you did used to go round to Paolo Di Canio's house and do karaoke?
Yeah, we did.
though?
We did karaoke there a few times. Paolo didn't know nothing about karaoke until he came to Glasgow. And he had an awful voice. Terrible voice. But him and his wife, I think, it was Paulina, they used to always have a karaoke night on. They loved it, absolutely loved it, yeah.
What was his song of choice and what was yours?
But whatever song Paolo sang was fantastic. That was Paolo. Paolo was like, yeah, fantastic. Paolo used to, what was one, we never wore bathrobes or nothing at Celtic. We were just normal, you know. Paolo came in and he was like, bathrobe? I need a bathrobe.
That's
know.
amazing.
And I was like, Paolo, no, I need bathrobe. And his English was obviously wasn't very good. And he was like, bathrobe, I need bathrobe. So anyway, we got him a bathrobe, and he'd just be putting it on, and he'd walk into the showers, and he'd be like there, and then he'd come out and he'd come out the shower, bathrobe on, all that, and he'd be like that with his brush. My mother gave birth to a beautiful baby. and that was it. He was great. We loved him.
What was your karaoke song of
You
choice?
know what? I'm not a karaoke person. I've got a terrible voice, so I was in good company.
Just the two of you stinking the place out.
I would have a go at anything, but I've got a terrible voice.
Fair enough. What's the biggest name in your phone book?
Oh, probably Wayne.
That's a good one. That's a good
Probably,
one. I think it's
probably
the first
Wayne.
one we've had. I like
And if I need any help, with Tony Bellew.
Tony.
Nice. Okay.
So actually spoke to him on the way up today. Not that I needed help. I just actually spoke to them. They would be the biggest two, I think.
That's good. Do you know what? Because I like that we've not had either
I
of
actually
those
remember
before.
just on Tony. He used to train at Everton's training ground when he was a boxer, so he'd come in and do his weight session at the training ground. He used to just then go in the cold bath and just walk straight in, all the way under. Nowadays it's normal, but you're like, how can you do that? But he'd come in like after a sparring session, his face was, you're like, that's mental. Like, we're soft.
That's a good. That's
He's not
a
sitting
good
in their
duo.
bathrobes.
Yeah.
Which current SPFL centre half would you like to pair up with?
Probably Carter Vickers. I think he's the best currently. He would be able to compensate for my lack of pace, so he would be a nice balance between the two.
Good shout.
Yeah.
And you would put him on the spot with this one. Stopping 10 in a row as a player or winning the cup with Hibs as a manager?
Well, nice because I've done both. Oh God, I can't answer that. I can't answer that.
I'm going to ask one. Who was your best partnership as a centre half?
Reaper.
Yeah.
In
In your
general,
career.
Davy Weir. David Weir. Davy Weir was a great lad. Davy was. I think he was the best for me, and hopefully, you know, he'll be. We both understood each other's games.
Mm.
Yeah. I think as centre backs, you have to have a partnership. You have to be able to understand the little traits of what they do and what they don't do. And I had Joseph Yobo, and Joe was Joe was, honestly, God, he was the quickest thing on 2 legs, but an absolute disaster to play with because he played for himself. So Joe would just go and do whatever he wanted. And then in terms of covering, you would come round and try and cover Joe. If you got sucked out of a position, Joe would still be on the other side of the pitch and they'd go, Joe, so they're your 2 scenarios.
Probably the hardest centre-back I played against, David Weir. It was obviously
Read the game, bro.
I knew what you were going to do before I did it. I would make a move and he was there. I was like, how does he do that? But I was at Dunfermline at the time playing against Rangers. He's probably, I don't know, 40 years old maybe. But he was just so intelligent. He's reading of the game. It was
great lad as well.
Right, your time.
You're on.
Turn, Andy.
Okay.
Favourite kit that you played in? The best memory?
Probably the Ross County one, the Adidas kit. It was a nice kit. Obviously, special memories as well. You relate, don't you, to the kit? So I would say the Ross County Adidas one.
I like this question. One thing you'd change about Scottish football?
I think the split in terms of the vote, in terms of the Premiership having all the power. Obviously, I've experienced it from a Championship club's point of view. I think the gap is already too big and it's getting bigger. I think we need to somehow change to make it a more even playing ground, to allow that gap to be closed. It's almost becoming a closed shop.
Yeah. Best player that you played with?
Christophe Dugarry, I would say. Yeah.
Do you know where your 2011 Challenge Cup medal is?
Probably my dad's got it. I think he's got all my. I was never one for sort of keeping anything, but he keeps it all, so I'll be in mum and dad's house.
Pull it out for the kids?
Maybe one day. My boy's getting to that age, so he likes all that. So he's actually starting to recognise that I actually did play football some point in my life. So maybe one day we'll get out.
And last one, favourite stadium that you played in?
First time I was ever involved with Birmingham first team was at Stamford Bridge. And I just remember, obviously, as in the reserves, you sort of play at these grounds and things like that. But I remember sort of that day, it was Sunday, it was live on TV, a big crowd, and it just sort of hit me. So I've always had sort of special memories for there. Up here, obviously, Celtic Park, Ibrox, but Tynecastle was always I always quite enjoyed there, just with the atmosphere and stuff. It was, but yeah, I'd go Stamford Bridge just because of what it meant to me and my career.
Brilliant. I enjoyed that.
I've
lost count of how many appearances you've made now. I feel like you're just
told you, relax. Bordering on arrogance.
But thank you very much.
You'll see me with your feet on the table next week.
Please don't bother. 2 top guests, Andy Barrowman, what a nice insight that was, footballer and CEO. And I'll tell you what, some of the stuff from Alan Stubbs, absolutely sensational. Thank you for watching the warm-up. We'll see you next time.